So you finally got a C-stand and you want to learn how to actually use it. Well, hang tight, I got you covered. What's going on, everyone? Setha Mirando here, last ex-witness on all social, taking over the channel again to go over C-stands with you. It seems like there is a lot of questions about how to actually set them up, how to be safe with them, get the most stability, optimize them, use them for different things. And I totally get that because I feel like we do a lot of education on here's how you do this type of lighting and the creation of things and all stuff that's kind of like fun and things like, and not that C-stands aren't fun. It's just that we overlook supports a lot, I feel, and supports can easily make everything that much better and elevated in your setup, can make you work faster, can allow you to do different setups and make the most of a space. And C-stands is definitely one of them, are definitely one of them. Oof, I'm killing it with the English today. Anyway, C-stand, what is it? Well, C-stand actually stands for Century Stand. And this actually is a bit of a debate. It was developed at 20th Century Fox, and that's kind of, maybe that's where the name came from. But the other school of thought is it came from this 100 centimeter reflector that's used to mount on these stands, 100 centimeters, which is about 3 feet or so, I believe. 100, century stand, C-stand. And they stood the test of time, and that's easy to see why. Once you start working with them, you start realizing how versatile they are, how well thought out they are, and how much they make use of the space you have with a smaller footing there. So with other stands and things like that, you take up a footprint of your space for, you know, diagonal legs and stacking them on top of one of each other when they get closer together for things like tabletop or whatever. It gets a little cumbersome, but this is kind of really what lets you use the floor as much as you can and still get those stands pretty close together. I'm gonna go over that in a second. Let's go over the parts of this thing. So this is a completed C-stand with a grip arm on it and a pin and everything like that. But let's go to the base of what this is. First of all, this is an Avenger C-stand in black. They come in a bunch of colors, not a bunch of colors, I guess just black and chrome really, or stainless. But this is a 4 and some inches tall stand when it's all closed down like this, and it goes up to about 9 feet 8 inches or 10 feet, somewhere around there. And you have your base and you have your center column. Now you can take this all apart. Let me just, I know I'm off frame. Have your center column, which is 1 1/8 inch on the base, which means that your base is 1 1/8 receptor. Not only do you have a base that you can set up for the center column, but you can get adapters for it. And just before I even throw in the rest of this, let me show you one of those adapters. This right here is a junior, which is 1 1/8 inch, to baby, which is 5/8. 5/8 is the size you see on the top of every light stand. And we're gonna go into that on the top of this light stand, even the pin that goes into your arm. But you can drop this into your base, tighten it down, and then you basically have the lowest to the ground, most stable stand you'll ever see with a 5/8 post on it. So you can get this pretty much to the ground. And yes, there are floor stands, there are other stands that go really low, some that actually go to the ground, stuff like that, but they're not as stable as this. If anything, they're basically like flat metal that happens to have a post on it, and it is what it is. But this will let you mount anything with a 5/8 socket on it, including flags and other things like that. So this is super useful, but it's also, you know, an add-on, right? This is an adapter, you don't need this. But junior to baby is basically what you're looking at when you're talking about these sizes on these stands. So we're gonna put this down on the ground. As you can see, each leg is at a different height. Yes, it lets you fold it down so that it's flat like I showed you before, but what that really lets you do is let you stack legs over each other. And we're gonna go into that once we build the stand. So just stay with me. I know I keep on like losing track, but there's just so much with C-stands, you're gonna lose your mind. Okay, so we're gonna put our center column into the base. We're gonna tighten it down, and we're gonna put it to the floor. But the one thing you really wanna think about when you're setting up a C-stand is you always wanna think about that tall leg. See how this leg is taller than the rest of these? Everything that you wanna concentrate is basically the tall leg. Check this out. So when you set up your C-stand, the first thing you wanna do when you get that center column in, or just basically have this set up like this all the time when you get started, just think of it this way. You wanna stand behind the stand and you want that tall leg facing that way. You want to be like this. And when you're doing that, if my tall leg is going this way as I'm facing the stand, my little knobs should be on the left. Little knobs on the left basically control my tiers, right? And you always wanna remember that when you're putting a C-stand up, or any stand really, you wanna start with the top tier and then the second tier. You want to get it to a point where if I was to put it up here without touching the top tier and I can't reach it, I'm you know, backs to the wall on that one. However, if I start with the top tier and then if I needed some more height, I got the second tier right there, no problem. So that's just like common knowledge, but I figured I would just touch on that really quickly. And you want to try not to always max out the height. Remember, we're always thinking about stability. We're always thinking about what will keep it in place. And the taller something goes, the less stable it becomes, right? Even on a C-stand. Well, you kind of want to just be conscious and aware of not maxing out the tier. You want to tighten that down, then pull up the second tier, okay? So now that I got my little knobs to the left, this is the basic C-stand. This is without the grip arm on it. This is without anything but a 5/8 post. It means a light can go directly on here, done, no problems, right? Well, what if I want to put on that grip arm? And I think the arms are really where C-stands excel, right? They're super great C-stands as a whole. The one thing is they're really hard to kind of transform, right? They're not a travel stand. They're not the smallest thing in the world. I mean, no matter what, it will be this long, okay? You can take it apart, sure, but it's still long pieces of metal with some weight to them. But the advantage you get is you have arms and stability. So if we take our grip arm, which is actually 2 knuckles going on here. So the way you want to set this up, let me show you what this knuckle even is. All right, so the grip head itself actually has a lot going on. So let's zoom in and get a closer look. And right away, you have your 5/8 socket right here that will allow you to fit it to your 5/8 post on your C-stand, right? So your little knobs go on the left when you're facing the tall leg, remember? Now, this isn't just me saying this. There's a reason for that. We're gonna go into that once we put the arm on. But to put the arm on, we have to look at the actual grip head itself. So the grip head has a few sockets on it if you take a look at it, right? Whoop, let's put it in right there. Okay, so we have 5/8, which is the size of our post, right? So I can actually put it on here like that if I wanted to, and then use the socket here however I need to, but that's kind of dumb and backwards, but there are certain cases that you would do that. However, 5/8 is also the size of the grip arm rod. So that's where you put your rod in for the actual arm. But aside from that, we also have 3/8 and we also have 1/4" sockets. So you can actually see that as you go around, there's different size sockets. They go from larger to smaller. What are the smaller ones for? Well, if this is for posts and arms as 5/8, the 3/8 and the 1/4 are for things like flags or things with smaller dowels. Even umbrellas can be held inside of these things. But you'll see that things like flags, scrims, diffusers, and other things that are framed usually go into a smaller diameter socket, and they got you covered here on this grip arm. And there's even this little notch right here, and that notch is actually used for a few things. One of the things people use them for is running line through it, like fishing line, string, cabling, things like that. Or there are modifiers or frames that let you use these smaller size sockets, and then it has a little nub on the modifier itself that sticks in there and allows it to keep it more stable from pivoting, because it's usually like a large wind sail on a socket and it could twist and turn and do different things, but it's got you covered there. So that's basically a quick overview of what all this stuff is. Obviously, if something is still loose while you're tightening it down, you're using the wrong socket, and you should really take a look at what you're doing there. So let's zoom back out and let's go over like the fun part, which is the arm. So remember, I have the tall leg facing away from me. I put this down and I've got my little knobs to my left. Well, I'm gonna tighten this down, and then I'm gonna loosen the big knob up, which is on my right. Now, I have the 40" grip arm right here. These come in different sizes, 40", 20". There's articulating ones, all sorts of like that. I've done videos on the articulating arms. You can check that out if you want to do a quick search. But a lot of people might call these like Hollywood arms or something like that, but they're basically just grip arms. There's a 5/8 rod, and that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because we just talked about it. I'm gonna go right into the 5/8 socket right on the grip arm. I'm gonna tighten this down a little bit, and now look, I have my big knobs on my right, my little knobs on my left. And this is a baby pin, an E650 pin to be exact. or some people call them coffin nail, which is totally awesome. It's one of the coolest slang terms I've heard on set, but I haven't heard anyone say it in a long time. I think it's like an older type thing that's dying out there. No pun intended, but maybe we'll bring it back with this video. Remember, coffin nail. So what is this? This is a baby pin. E650 is the actual part number if you're looking for it. This is a 5/8 pin that goes into your 5/8 receptacle on your, or socket on your grip head, right? This also has a notch on it so that when you tighten down your light, if it were to loosen at all, it'll get caught on the collars here. It also has a collar right here, which is 7/8, which means I can actually open this up and just slam it through. And when I slam it through, it can't fall out. And that's all safety measures, all right, guys? You wanna make sure that everybody on your set is safe. You wanna make sure that no lights fall. You wanna make sure you don't break any of your gear or any of the people in your set, right? You don't wanna be the photographer that hurt a bunch of people. Now, what else is this? Well, the problem is that a lot of people mount it to here. And while this is 5/8 and you have a 5/8 socket on your lights, this is not safe. It is a completely round dowel. It can spin. It can actually fall off. If it's just a little hair loose on the light itself, the knob on the light could fall off and hurt someone. But, and some people even tell me that, oh bro, you just take an angle grinder to it and you get the notch going. One, why are you gonna permanently damage a C-stand for no reason? Two, why are you gonna even play games trying to figure out where to put that notch so it even fits correctly wherever the pin is, the knob on your light? And three, really guys, it is invaluable to have a pin like this that not only doesn't cost a lot, I think these are like $8 US dollars, okay? Not only that, but you also are able to articulate the light way more. Let's get into that because this is where the little knobs on the left and the big knobs on the right come into play. So when I extend an arm and put a light on it, this is where things get super sketchy because you're literally putting the weight from the stand off the stand. And that means that while this is the stability point, now you've got weight hanging off. And we'll go into counterweights in a few minutes. Let's go into the most important part about hanging a light with an arm, and that is where your knobs are and where do you hang the light on the stand itself. So remember I said little knobs to the left, big knobs to the right. Well, if I have my big knobs to my right and I extend it this way, remember I'm putting it now, all the weight is over my tall leg. The tall leg is the most stable and it's going to be able to hold it. You're gonna put a sandbag on that leg. I'll go over that in a second. I feel like there's always so much, but I'm telling you right now, once you get used to C-stands and the common practice or even comprehend the physics or just common sense of it being safe, it's second nature to you. You're not even gonna think about it. I promise you, you're just gonna be like, you're gonna turn this into a transformer. It'll be nuts. Okay, so I'm hanging it over the tall leg, but I'm doing that with the big knobs on the right and the little knobs on the left because if I put weight, let's say I have this light up here going this way and I tighten this down, if the weight is over here, it's spinning the knob to the right, righty-tighty. It's actually tightening the knuckle more and more instead of if I were to swing it incorrectly this way, tighten it down. If it was a little loose and there's a little bit of give, it'll, that actually worked out too well for me right now, but it'll give all the way and it'll just keep getting looser and looser because you're spinning the knob to the left. If you did it this way, you're doubling down on safety. And also I think even if you were to check if it was tight on this side, you'd be surprised how dumb little things like vibration on set, stupid things like that can actually affect how long something stays tight for. And every time you're putting heat into a situation, which is what we're doing on set, it gets a little warmer, it's like that, things change. I know I'm making a big deal about this, but this is really things you need to keep in mind. And if you just remember, big knobs right, little knobs left, and the arm always goes over the tall leg. If you do those three things, big knobs right, little knobs left, arm always over the tall leg, you are absolutely fine, I promise you. But this is as safe as it gets when it comes to hanging a light C-stand wise. And let's talk about securing that base. I'm gonna step back a little bit so you guys can see. You're gonna take your sandbag and you're gonna chuck it on the tall leg. I know. A lot of you go, but the weight should be back here to counteract the weight over here. I hear that all the time. You know, you're not totally wrong, but the reality is if this swings, that means the stand is the thing holding up that sandbag. If I were to put it on the back leg and look, now the floor is holding up that sandbag and not the stand. Therefore, it is not stable. Remember, the primary bag goes on the tall leg. Any additional weight after that can go whatever. You want to put it on the back leg, fine, but you have to start with weight on the tall leg. Get it off of the ground, let the weight hang from the stand. Now you can get other different things like this, which are super awesome. This is slang term as pumpkin, but it's actually a counterweight. And what it does, it lets you have a little screw down clamp type situation onto a pretty good amount of weight in a small form factor, and you're able to actually clamp them to the legs themselves, and they basically just stay there. These are great for things like roller stands, right? Where you can roll them around pretty easily, but you still need counterweight to keep them from the stand from tipping over. Or some people will even mount them to the back of the arm right about here. There's a lot of uses for these, but these are a bit of an investment. They're definitely more money than a sandbag, but they never leak. They take up less space, but sandbags definitely have more uses in the studio as far as like propping things up or whatever. So this is just something to keep in mind. Check them out if you want to take a look at them. And as a quick little bit before I let you guys go, let's talk about mounting reflectors on a C-stand, because I think this is something that you guys will not only use, but you'll also be able to take it and go, a little more understanding of C-stands, and you'll be using it with other things than just reflectors. Okay, so we got that, right? We can just extend the arm over the leg, but something that's really cool to throw in there, and I think you'll get a kick out of this, is if you take the pin out of here, and if you relax this knuckle and point this up, you now have a nice straight rod that will let you have a clamp over here. This is really useful for a lot of things. I'm going to show you with a reflector because I feel like that's the most common use of it. So with this, remember, if it's open, I have the flat part, or you have don't forget, you have these sockets right here, right? Well, if I open up the sockets, I now have something with a little bit of teeth on it. You guys can't see that too well. There we go. I have something with a little bit of teeth on it, right? So both have a use case. Now let's say I'm doing something like a board, right? Brooklyn reflector, foam board, right? White, maybe some silver, whatever you guys want to do. Well, if I open up this and I put it in the flat against the flat, and I just give it a little bit of tight, nothing crazy. You don't want to squash the board and damage it for no reason. You just need to hold it there a little bit. And then if I loosen this knuckle that's on the stand, I now have the ability to put this wherever I want. Look at this beauty light. Look how pretty I am. But you can put it as a vertical, so if you want to have a reflector from the side, you know, however you want to put it. And once you have it set, you can tighten it down and then take out like an A-clamp and just boom, right there onto the arm itself, however you want to put it. It could be diagonal, whatever. You just are able to make it pretty stable for what it is for the time being, for what you need to shoot with it. Now let's say you're going, but Seth, what if I don't use the boards? What if I'm using a classical reflector with a spring in it? I got you covered. Remember those 5/8 sockets over here that I told you about? Remember I said they're kind of teethish? Well, they also allow for enough room for these springs. So if I just take this, and I open it up and I put it in between the teeth and I just give it a little bit of a snug, right? So it's in between the teeth and not in the flat part, but it's in the actual socket. Just a little tight, not crazy. And again, we're good to go. We have a reflector. We can put this wherever we want. Super useful. I mean, this is incredibly useful, especially if you're someone that works alone. You don't have someone hold a reflector for you, or if you need something to stay constant, right? Boom, you're good to go. You have something that can always stay stable right where you want it. If you're working like an event and doing a bunch of shots, you want a reflector in the same place all the time, you can have your reflector where you want it, your light where you want it, stay stable. Everything stays in the same place. And the next person comes in, shoot, they're out. Next person comes in, shoot, you're out. All sorts of stuff like that. So there's plenty of uses for all that kind of stuff. And then I think the last thing I'm gonna show you guys is why they're so awesome for tight spaces. And that's because you can stack these bases on top of each other really, really easily. Let's show you what I'm talking about. So I put these here. Let's get rid of this sandbag. If I take these two stands right here, if I take the tallest leg, remember I kept saying, keep your mind on the tall leg all the time. And if I just stick it over the lowest leg of the stand that's already on the ground, and I keep doing that, I'm able to stack a lot of stands in a row. And you may have even seen this in like movies or whatever, grip trucks. They have like 10, 20 stands on a small little cart because they can fit them all in place. But this doesn't just mean for storage. This means I can set a bunch of different lights to or whatever I need to wherever I gotta go, and in a tabletop type setup or something like that. Like, you can get pretty tight. If this was normal stands, I would have a diagonal going like this and legs can't go over each other and you're like fighting for position there. This kind of allows for, let me show you guys, really nice stance. I'll do that one more time because I think I was out of frame. Tall leg over the short leg, tall leg over the short leg. Boom. More space in your studio, more space when you're setting up, and you're pretty much all good to go on that front. And this is just scratching the surface of what you can do with C-stands, but this is basic operation. Just remember those three key things, okay? If you're facing the stand, you want the tall leg that way. You want your little knobs on the left, your big knobs on the right. And anytime you hang an arm off of your stand, if you did this correctly, it goes over the tall leg. Arm, tall leg. That's it. Big knobs right, little knobs left, arm always over the tall leg. Can't lose. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope this was helpful to you. I'm sure there's some people that were like, I knew all of that, but not a lot of people do. And there's a lot of people coming into the game that are coming from their phone to a camera and never assisted anybody and are just buying stuff. And you wanna invest in grip like this that will last you for a long time. Remember, if this goes down, it's not just the stand that breaks, it's your light, it's your set, it's someone's eye, right? So invest in good stands. The Avengers are a staple. They've been a legacy brand out there for C-stands for sure. This studio has plenty of them in here. And just remember, no matter what camera you use, what lights you change to, what system you change from back and forth or whatever, you still keep the same grip. So just remember that, okay? Don't ever skimp on grip. You will regret it later, I promise you. All right, that's gonna do it for me. If you wanna check me out, my name is Setha Mirando, last ex-witness on all social. And don't forget to hit like, share this video around, hit subscribe, plus the bell to get notified when more videos like this come out. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Later.